All right, let's get started. Again, good morning, everyone. This is Alex LaRosa with Paper Pros, and today is our first webinar on no-code software development. This is focused primarily on manufacturing companies and how we can bring automation to these companies at 10 times the speed of normal software development. I'm going to cover a few things this morning in this webinar. I'm going to go through kind of a brief presentation here, just a couple of minutes to give you some background information. And then I'm going to go into 3 different demos. Now, it's important to keep in mind that these demos are just examples of the types of applications that we can develop using no code, which really is no different than any regular development. It just happens faster. All right. So starting over here, by the way, if you have any questions during this webinar, feel free to use the Q&A option in the Zoom webinar tool. I will answer as many questions as possible at the end of the webinar. All right, getting started here. I thought I'd give you some background information on Paperwork Pros. Pardon me. All right, there you go. So Paperwork Pros, we are a software development company, and we leverage no-code development platforms, again, to deliver automation at 10 times the speed. And our long-term goal is to improve the world by helping customers build 10,000 applications by the year 2030. We are also a veteran-led business. We're located in Downers Grove, Illinois, which is close to Chicago. Now, one of the reasons why, or some of the reasons why you would want to work with Paper Pros is because of our full commitment to no code. We have actually selected 3 platforms that we feel will bring all the great benefits of no code to our customers, depending on the functionality that they're looking for and the investment that they're willing to make. And what's unique about Paperwork Pros is that if you're ever unhappy with our services, we will let you pay whatever you feel is reasonable for our work. We want to be partners to our customers, and we live by our core values of honesty, no excuses, humility, and we want to be treated and treat others as family. So why no code? Well, no code is a relatively new technology. It's been around for a few years, but it's gaining momentum right now. And it's really a development technique or approach that allows us to develop applications up to 10 times faster. It has there's some reasons for that. All the tools that are required to develop an application are included in the platform, and the platforms offer pre-built templates, whether it's small functionality or entire applications, and it's really a visual drag and drop type tool set that again allows us to write applications without actually having to write code. This in turn lowers your total cost of ownership for the application, not only initially during the development phase, but also later on and as you upgrade and modernize your application. And finally, one of the great benefits of no code is because it's so easy to use compared to traditional development, we can actually train non-developers to be essentially no-code developers and either maintain or fully develop applications. Typically, the type of people that learn no code are people that are somewhat familiar with computers. Maybe they're good at office applications like Excel, and they just want to take it to the next step. But what's important is that they don't have to be developers. They don't have to have that kind of coding background. Now, we're not the only ones who believe that no code is the future. Software companies like Google and Amazon and Microsoft all have invested and developed no-code platforms. There are several platforms out there, and even industry analyst Gartner predicts that by the year 2024, up to 65%, 2/3 of all new applications being developed will be developed in no-code. That is a large, large number of applications. Now, when it comes to no code, it's important to keep in mind that there are some excellent use cases. There are some scenarios that we feel are really great fit for no code development. Now, in the manufacturing world, we, Ron and I have had, Ron is, my business partner here at Paperwork Pros, and Ron and I have had a lot of experience in manufacturing for the last, almost 20 years. And we have seen a lot of Excel spreadsheets being used inside of manufacturing companies. They're used for all kinds of reasons, mostly to automate manual tasks, to manipulate data. And that's an excellent solution if there's nothing else available. But one of the great things you can do with no code is actually turn these spreadsheets into applications. So you can centralize the application, you can distribute it to all your users, either as a web-based application or a mobile phone application, and you can keep the security nice and tight, and it's just a much better user experience for your users. Obviously, automating manual processes is also one of the primary reasons to use no code, or modernizing perhaps legacy software that can no longer be updated because maybe the vendor is out of business or you're too many versions behind. We can do integration with business applications like ERP and CRM. We can develop mobile apps, as I mentioned, as well as web-based apps, and so much more. Now, we have picked 3 platforms, as I mentioned earlier. These 3 platforms are AppSheet, which is owned by Google. It's a great entry-level platform. It can scale up pretty nicely. The price for AppSheet starts at $10 per user per month, which is extremely affordable. And it has a nice wizard-like feature to build applications. We can build applications out of an Excel spreadsheet or a Google Sheet with AppSheet in literally hours and days instead of weeks and months. The next platform is Betty Blocks. This is kind of a mid-market to enterprise level no-code platform. It's extremely customizable. It can build applications that are fully functional and really cannot be distinguished from applications developed with traditional code. The starting price for Betty Blocks is $1,400 per month for the platform, but it does include unlimited users, which is a great selling point in our opinion. And then finally, Uncork. This is an enterprise class no-code platform that are primarily used in kind of insurance and financial services and government verticals. And it's really robust. It comes pre-built with all kinds of templates that are used in these environments. And again, its price to match starts at about $8,000 per month for the platform. So with that all set, I'm ready to start with the demo. As I said, these demos are just examples of types of applications. I'll be showing you 2 demos in AppSheet and 1 in Betty Blocks today. All right, so this first demo is a work orders application developed in AppSheet. And the idea here is that a manufacturing company would use this application to track and report and solve internal repair jobs. So I'm looking here at a dashboard. On the left-hand side of this dashboard, I can see all of the different issues that have been reported. They're split into different categories. I have 3 issues that have been submitted, so they need my attention. Every time an issue is submitted, by the way, the administrator of this application will receive an email notifying him that there's an issue to be looked at. Then 6 more have been assigned to a repairman, and then 3 are actually currently being worked, and then 3 have been resolved. And this is a great looking application. I can easily click on any of these issues and see the details on the right-hand side. So let's click on the first one and take a look at what this is. I can make this portion of the screen here bigger, very simply, and then I can go down here and look at where the item is located, when it was reported, by whom, and then check on the status. And as the administrator of this application, my job is to evaluate these items and assign them to technicians. So I'll do just that. I'm going to edit this application or this submission, and then I just scroll down. I can see a nice picture. Now you can picture this being used by a person working on the shop floor, the manufacturing plant, and coming across an issue that needs to be taken care of, and perhaps using this app on their phone, take a picture, fill out a quick form, and submit it. So now that I've received this, all I need to do is just give it a different status. I'll say that it's assigned, and because I selected assign, now I have a choice of 2 technicians that I can assign it to. And I will assign it to Carrie and save it. Now, if I go back to my dashboard, as you can see now, I only have 2 instead of 3 issues that have been submitted. And now the gear issue has been assigned and it's going to be worked. Now, If I'm the technician, of course, I will do the same thing. I would actually mark it as in progress and then eventually mark it as resolved. Um, the data in the system is really well organized. I can really look at it from different perspectives. We can create different views of this data. For instance, if I just want to see all the statuses, I would pull up this dashboard, which gives me all the information that I need. And then, or I can only see maybe just the resolved ones, even with a signature block in it. And so it's a great little application. Now, the key takeaway here is that it took us a handful of hours to build this application. We started off with a template that AppSheet provided, and we were able to turn this around in maybe half a day of work. So again, the speed of development is critical when it comes to AppSheet, and it's really a great benefit of this solution. Now, comparatively, this same application, if I developed it with the traditional code, perhaps JavaScript and some server-side scripting, it probably would have taken at least a month to build it to this level of functionality. All right, I'm going to move on to a new example here. This is also built with AppSheet. And this is, oh, by the way, I'm sorry, I meant to show this. This is a report that gets generated from the application. We can schedule reports. This is a PDF that gets emailed to that manager once a day, but we can schedule it any way you like. And it has a summary of all the issues that are currently being worked on. All right, as I was saying, let's move on to our next example. This is a customer relationship management example. Some of you are probably familiar with CRM software. You can think of this as kind of a light CRM. We built this starting with just a set of data in Excel. We took the data and then we moved it into Google Sheets, which makes it a little bit easier to work in AppSheet. And really, all the work initially was done in the data. As you can see, there are contacts and then there are deals. They're all listed here and products and things like that. Pretty straightforward data set. And as I said, we turned around this application in probably, again, a matter of a few days. In this application, I have a view of all my contacts. Now, the benefit of this view is that not only can I sort by any of these fields and search, of course, any of the data that you see on screen, but because we are seeing data that contains addresses and email addresses and phone number, AppSheet will automatically allow us to create smart links, such as this little map link that will literally put my contacts on a Google map without me doing any additional development. This comes out of the box from AppSheet, which is pretty phenomenal. Going back to my contacts list here, because there's an email address in the record, it will allow me to automatically email this person. All I need to do is click that button and an email, my email client will pop up with an email to that person. And then if I have phone capabilities, if I use this from a smartphone, for example, I can even call or text this contact. Now, when I go into a contact, and actually I'm going to select the second one here, I can see that I have all my contact information as you would expect. It's fully editable, of course. This app is even integrated with another CRM system. So anytime I do an update, it will send that update over to that other CRM, which is pretty nifty. But important to see here is that I have an associated deal to this contact. And if I click that deal, I can see that I have some information about the deal. So there's an annual premium. This isn't actually done for an insurance company, but it could serve just as well for a manufacturing company. And then I have some annual premium, also calculated the quarterly and the monthly premium. This is also integrated with Dropbox. So from here, I can open the Dropbox folder and store documents for this particular client. And I can see all of the products they purchased within this deal and their respective amount. And then if I go further down, I can see all the details of a product. There are some categories and additional product details here that can be important for my deal. And then finally, I also have a deals view that will allow me to see all of my deals. And then anytime a deal has closed and has an amount associated with it, is highlighted, and the amount is highlighted as well, as you can see. So very simple to use, but again, something that can be developed in AppSheet in just a matter of a few days of development once we have the data ready. All right. So the last thing I'm going to show you is a demonstration of an application that we wrote using a different platform. This platform is called Betty Blocks, as I mentioned earlier. And this is a pretty comprehensive quoting and invoicing application. The context here, this was developed primarily for contractors, but again, it can be used very easily in the manufacturing space. And so with this application, when I log in into this web-based interface, I can see that I can create invoices, I can review existing invoices, I can create new quotes, review quotes, and then also manage my customers and products and services. This is fully web-based, but it also works great on mobile, whether it's a tablet or a mobile phone. So in this demo, I'm going to show you the creation of a new quote. So I click the new quote button, and what this does, it takes me into a wizard. It's a step-by-step process to create a quote. All I need to do is provide some answers, and the system will create the quote for me. So step number one is asking me about my customer. I can select an existing customer or create a brand new one. Now I have a few customers here in my list. This list is fully searchable, very easy to use, but I choose my customer from the list. I could change my date and expiration date, but I'm not going to do that. So once I pick my customer, I click next. In step number two, I need to provide the content of this quote. This is the line items, the items that I'm quoting, typically products or services. Again, just like before, I can select from a list or I can create a new one. I'll start off with this drywall service. This comes in at a price of $1,300. So when I created this item, I decided that this is the standard price that I charge to drywall a one-story house. But in this case, because I'm doing a larger job, maybe I'm changing the price to $1,500. I can easily do that in my pop-up and add it to my quote. As you can see here, now I have one line item in my quote. Now I'll add another item called electrical work. Now this is an hourly based type of service that I provide, and I know that I'm going to need 3 hours of that service for my customer. So I'll add 3 hours of electrical work to my quote. And then finally, I will add a product, these 3-inch LED lights to my quote. Now, because this is a product, again, I'm going to change the quantity, but I'm also going to change the tax rate. Depending on what I'm selling this at, I need a different tax rate, so I'll enter that at 8% and add it to my quote. And as you can see here, the system calculates all my quantities times price and taxes and so forth automatically for me. So right now I know exactly what my quote is going to end up being. Now, at any point, if I need to make changes, of course, I can keep adding items, or I can edit existing items or delete items as well. But I'm done with my line items, and I'll move on to the next step. Now, step number 3 is completely optional. This is where I can add a discount if I so choose, and perhaps I can alter some of the content on the quote. Let's put in a discount of $100. You can see I can choose between a percentage or a fixed amount. I'll choose a fixed amount of $100. The system tells me that my new total went down from $2,250 to $2,150. And then down below, because these quotes are generated from templates, I can easily modify the template. I can provide some boilerplate text in my template, but I can also edit it. And what I'll do here, you see here that I have my standard payment terms as 3 payments. I want this to be only 2 payments for this particular job. So I'm gonna delete one and then change my percentages to 50% due up front and 50% due at completion. And then all I need to do next is hit the create button. At this point, the system is going to take the information that I provided, plus the information that was stored in my database previously, and it's going to combine it all into a PDF quote that I can share with my customer. So in a moment here, you'll see that the PDF comes up on screen, and it will be my finished quote. This is for the Mario Brothers construction company, obviously a fictional company, and all that relevant information for Mario Brothers is listed here. My customer is listed here, and as you can see here, I can see all my line items listed the way I entered them in the system. I also have my tax rate here for my LED lights and my $100 discount at the bottom. And as you can see, my payment terms have changed based on my entries of 50% due upfront and 50% at completion. And we also have a signature block at the bottom. So now what I can do at this point with this quote, I simply click this options button, and I have many, many options that I can choose from. Obviously, I can email this to my customer. I could perhaps even request a paper quote to be sent out. I can print this quote, save the quote PDF. In fact, I'll do just that. And when I save it, it's actually just a standard PDF file that I can open in my computer. I can archive it, I can print it, I can do whatever I want with it. Very, very simple to use and very effective. I don't need to be an expert at any kind of type of, even word processor for that matter, and it produces a beautiful looking quote. All right, just to summarize again, the capabilities of no-code development tools are essentially the same as regular development tool, except that development can be done a lot quicker. I showed you 3 examples, and now I'd like to open up the floor for questions. If you have questions about what I talked about so far, feel free to type them up in the Q&A section of the Zoom webinar, and I'll go ahead and respond to these questions. All right, I see that there are a few questions. I'm going to open them up. All right. So the first question is, what can't be done with no code? So what are the limitations of no code development? Well, realistically, in most scenarios and for most companies, anything that can be done with traditional software development tools can also be done with no code. In reality, there's a few areas where no code is probably not a great choice. Things that come to mind are programs that require a high degree of graphical interface. So if you were to develop a brand new CAD application, you probably want to code that in something different than no code, right? Because you need to access the graphical capabilities of a computer in a way that no code really can't do. But I would say that for business type applications, there really isn't any type of limitations. Now, another question we got here is, how long does it take to learn no code? Okay, so if you are interested in learning no code, there are different things you can learn in no code. You could perhaps become proficient enough in one of these no code platforms to be able to make small changes to an application, essentially maintain an application in a matter of just a week or two, okay? Depending on your background, how much familiar you are with other tools, perhaps some advanced Excel formulas, things like that, you can become really proficient in no code in just a matter of weeks. Now, if you want to become a full-blown no-code developer, that's perhaps a couple of months worth of effort. But again, it's minuscule compared to, say, traditional development. There's so many things that the no-code platform does for you that you don't have to worry about with no code, and things like security, database development, and kind of patching, setting up and maintaining all these environments. Those are things that take a lot of effort and energy and money, and they're all done for you by these no-code platforms. So that's an excellent point there. All right, let's see. We got a couple more questions here, and I hope we're doing good on time. I'm gonna go a few extra minutes if you don't mind. If you need to drop off, it's okay. But if you stay, I'll try to answer all the questions. And of course, if you have questions after this webinar and you want to reach out to Paper Pros, you can call us, reach out to us on our website or through email, and we'll be happy to follow up with you. All right, so the next question is, can you mix multiple data sources for an application with any of the 3 no-code platforms? For example, SQL, Google Cloud SQL servers, Google Sheets. The answer is yes, with some. And let me explain. You certainly can do that in AppSheet. AppSheet is very versatile when it comes to data sources. In fact, you can concurrently have multiple data sources connected to AppSheet. When it comes to both Betty Blocks and Encore, it's a little bit different because their databases are actually proprietary. Now, the backend platform actually uses standard relational database, very enterprise-grade, robust databases. But the way you access the data is proprietary through the platform. And so what you would need to do is take your different data sources and essentially download and upload the data into these applications. Certainly doable, but you couldn't necessarily connect multiple data sources to one application at the same time. That being said, all these platforms have the ability to use APIs, or essentially is the ability to connect multiple applications that are external to your application. And so through an API, you can virtually connect to anything. So if you wanted to keep your data source in a SQL server hosted on an Amazon cloud, and you wanted to access that from Betty blocks, you certainly could through an API. And I think I partially answered the next question, but I'll read it anyways. So can you integrate with external services such as APIs, chatbots, barcode scanning, or maps? And the answer is yes. Yes to all of those, and then some. These platforms all come with built-in APIs capabilities. In the case of AppSheet, some of the things mentioned here, such as Google Maps, are actually built into the platform. You don't even have to worry about the API. As soon as you provide a record with a map, AppSheet will figure out that it's an address, and it will show you a map if you so choose. You can obviously set things up differently if you want, but some of these things come pre-built. But all of these platforms have APIs built in. In addition to that, we also have the ability to connect to third-party API platforms such as Zapier or Integromat, which allow us to essentially connect to anything else available these days, whether it's your ERP or CRM or chatbots, as was mentioned, and so on and so forth. So again, in the case of that application that I showed you earlier with the relational database of the different contacts, the customer relationship database, that is actually currently being integrated with a CRM tool through a tool called Integromat. So, all right, I think I have one more question. I know we're a couple of minutes over, but I want to answer this question. The question is, how do you save 10x on development time? That seems like a really big ask. Well, let me explain. When you develop software the traditional way, before you can actually start writing code, you need to set up your platforms. Now, depending on what you're writing, who you're writing for, the platform's choice, you'll have to set up your application server, your database server, you'll have to set up your database, you'll have to set up your security. That's all required before you even start writing your code. Potentially, you'll have these environments multiplied over all of your development environments. So you may have a situation where there's a development environment, then there's a test environment, and then there's your production environment. So if you have that situation, then you also need a tool that lets you migrate your code from one to the next to the next. And then you start your development, and anything you create in a traditional environment will have to be handwritten. Code needs to be written. Now, it's true that you can use samples and templates there too, but you're still handwriting the code. In other words, you're writing keywords and syntax and formulas inside of a text editor, essentially. It's a glorified text editor, but it's a text editor nonetheless. With no code, especially if you start with templates, it's drag and drop. It's literally a configuration panel where you need to set some parameters. You know, you right-click, you drag on your screen, you right-click, you configure the panel the way you want it, and then you move on. So the actual writing part of the application is probably even 100 times faster. When it comes down to setting up and maintaining the application, that's when you have all these shortcuts with no code. They'll save you time. Now, the areas where no code is no faster than regular code is the architectural phase of the creation of the application. You still need to architect that application. You still need to figure out what your specs are, what your users need to see. All of that still needs to be done. And then the testing phase. Of course, before you release your application to production, it needs to be tested. Someone will have to go through all the clicks to make sure that it works the way it's supposed to. And so that's still done the same way as traditional code. But we have seen, again, a great improvement in the speed that we can develop applications in. And I think that was my last question. Yep, that was. I think I've answered all the questions. Well, we're a few minutes over. Thanks again today for joining our webinar. I hope to hear from you. And again, if you have any questions, reach out any of your contacts at Paperwork Pros. We'll be happy to answer your questions or even show you a more in-depth demo of some of these applications. And if you have a project or an application that you plan to develop, we'll be happy to talk about requirements and provide a kind of an initial feedback on what it could take to build that application. Thanks again, everyone, and have a great rest of your day and a great weekend.